The moment those photos appeared, the palace knew this was no ordinary scandal. This was something colder, sharper, and far more dangerous. While cameras flashed and headlines celebrated what looked like a compassionate hospital visit, another story was unfolding behind the scenes. A story of money, image, timing, and fury. Because according to insiders watching every move, Meghan Markle did not simply step into a children's hospital to offer kindness. She stepped into a storm. And when the truth began to surface, Prince William was said to be absolutely livid. It was the 18th day of April 2026. Across Australia, the Sussex brand was attempting yet another grand reinvention. Prince Harry had taken the stage in Melbourne, speaking dramatically about pain, trauma, and liberation, while Meghan moved through Sydney crafting a very different kind of narrative. Soft smiles, gentle handshakes, warm embraces with children, a polished image of empathy. But some observers noticed something strange almost immediately. The photographs were too perfect, the wardrobe too precise, every angle too clean, every accessory too visible. It looked less like charity and more like a campaign. Then came the twist no one expected. Within hours of the visit, the images reportedly began circulating through social media channels linked to a sophisticated AI-powered fashion platform in which Meghan was described as a key investor. Suddenly, the same pictures that showed her comforting sick children were being used for something else entirely. Users could tap the screen and buy the coat, buy the shoes, buy the jewelry, buy the look. Compassion had become commerce in real time. A hospital corridor had become a luxury storefront, and the outrage started building fast. People were stunned by the speed of it. One moment, the world was told this was a heartfelt visit. The next, it appeared to be a monetized marketing funnel. Critics asked the question that changed everything. Was the hospital stop genuinely about service, or was service simply the backdrop for sales? Because if every smile led to a shopping link, then what exactly had the public just witnessed? Even more explosive were reports claiming commissions from those linked purchases could bring profits on every sale. If true, that meant each click carried cash. Each admiring viewer became a potential customer. Each emotional image had commercial value, and suddenly the glossy royal fantasy looked disturbingly transactional. The Duchess image was no longer just symbolic, it was revenue generating. Inside royal circles, that is where the anger reportedly ignited, because to the institution, titles were meant for duty, not retail conversion. Appearances were meant to uplift causes, not wardrobes. The accusation wasn't merely that Meghan sold clothes, it was that she allegedly used royal mystique, public sympathy, and vulnerable children as the perfect environment to do it. That combination turned irritation into rage. And then there was William. Sources described the Prince of Wales as reaching a breaking point. For years, he had watched interviews, memoirs, documentaries, and strategic leaks batter the family from abroad. But this was different. This was no emotional grievance. This was branding. This was monetization wearing the costume of public service. And if palace whispers are to be believed, William saw it as the latest proof that the half-in, half-out model had not died at all. It had simply evolved into something slicker, smarter, and more profitable. While Catherine remained focused on recovery, while the royal household attempted calm and continuity, the Sussex machine appeared to be moving with ruthless timing. Some critics openly questioned whether Meghan was trying to occupy the global spotlight during Catherine's absence. Others argued it was coincidence. But in scandal, coincidence rarely survives scrutiny. The more people looked, the worse it seemed. Then came another humiliation. Meghan's highly promoted Sydney luxury retreat, priced at a staggering $3,000 a ticket, reportedly struggled to fill seats. The event promised exclusivity, inspiration, and personal transformation. Yet many in the Australian press mocked it as a premium sales seminar dressed as empowerment. Instead of triumphant demand, reports suggested hesitation. Instead of prestige, backlash. Instead of sold-out glamour, whispers of failure. That is when the two stories collided. On one side, hospital photos linked to shopping technology. On the other, a luxury retreat carrying a royal-adjacent aura and luxury price tag. Together, they painted a picture critics could not ignore. This was not escape from royalty. This was commercialization of royalty. The very system once condemned was now the engine powering the brand. And William, insiders say, had seen enough. Because behind palace walls, discussions were no longer about hurt feelings or brotherly disappointment. They were about containment, reputation, boundaries. The future king was reportedly shifting from patience to policy. If the Sussex name had become a private business asset, then the monarchy had to decide how much longer it would allow that association to continue unchecked. But the real shock shock was still to come, because as Australia buzzed with controversy, lawyers, advisors, and strategists in London were said to be preparing a response far more devastating than any public statement. No interviews, no shouting, no leaks filled with emotion, just cold institutional action. And if those reports were true, Harry and Meghan were about to learn that palace silence can be far more dangerous than palace anger. The silence from London was not weakness, it was preparation. While headlines screamed about dresses, apps, and retreat tickets, the palace was said to be moving with the kind of calm precision that terrifies people who mistake quiet for surrender. Because Prince William reportedly understood something brutal and simple, every public attack could be survived. But the steady commercial use of royal prestige was a far deeper threat. Scandals fade, business models grow, and if titles became tools for private profit, the damage could spread far beyond one family feud. So instead of emotional reactions, insiders claimed William wanted structure, boundaries, finality. The mood inside royal circles was described as cold and businesslike. No more endless cycles of outrage followed by silence. No more confusion about roles. No more blurred lines where public symbolism could be converted into private income. The future king was said to be thinking years ahead, not days ahead. And that made this moment far more serious than another tabloid clash. According to reports, advisors began discussing ways to make one message unmistakably clear. You can live privately, you can profit privately, you can build brands privately, but you cannot endlessly wrap private ventures in royal identity and expect the institution to smile politely forever. That principle had hovered in the background for years. Now it was being dragged into the center of the crisis. Meanwhile, the Sussex image machine appeared to be undergoing pressure. The Australian tour that was supposed to feel triumphant had become messy. Harry's emotional speeches generated debate. Meghan's hospital fashion controversy generated anger. The $3,000 retreat generated ridicule. Instead of one polished success story, there were now too many competing narratives, and none of them looked stable. Critics said the couple seemed trapped in a cycle where attention had to be constantly escalated to maintain relevance. Each new move had to be louder, bolder, more dramatic than the last. That kind of strategy works until it doesn't. And some believe the public mood was shifting. Sympathy once came easily when Harry and Meghan presented themselves as wounded outsiders escaping an impossible system. But sympathy becomes harder to sustain when luxury pricing, elite branding, and shopping links dominate the conversation. The contrast was becoming impossible to ignore. On one side stood stories of privacy and pain. On the other stood monetized visibility at premium prices. That contradiction was beginning to speak louder than any interview ever could. Back in Britain, Catherine's quiet recovery only sharpened that contrast. She said little. She sold nothing. She remained largely unseen, yet her absence seemed to strengthen public affection rather than weaken it. Dignity can be powerful when the world expects spectacle, and many noticed that while one side chased headlines, the other gained support through restraint. That comparison was politically dangerous for the Sussexes because it could not be argued away. It was emotional, instinctive, and visible to everyone. Then came whispers of something even harsher, long-term exclusion. Not dramatic title removals or cinematic punishments, but practical distancing. Fewer associations, less access, no symbolic overlap, no room for ambiguity. If true, it would be devastating because relevance often depends less on formal status and more on perceived proximity. The farther Harry and Meghan drifted from the working core of the monarchy, the harder it would be to sell themselves as royal-adjacent global power players. And that is where Meghan's fashion controversy became bigger than clothes. It was not about one coat or one app. It was about whether the Sussex model depended on royal fascination while simultaneously attacking the source of that fascination. Critics said it was like cutting down the tree while selling tickets to its shade. If the monarchy was toxic, why keep using its language, titles, and aura? If it was valuable, why keep attacking it? The contradiction sat at the center of everything. Harry reportedly faced another painful reality as well. Every new grievance story risked empowering the one person he least wanted strengthened, William, because each controversy made the Prince of Wales look steadier, more disciplined, more necessary. Every dramatic outburst from abroad gave the palace an excuse to close ranks at home. Every monetized spectacle made traditional duty look stronger by comparison. The rebellion that once seemed threatening was now, to some observers, helping the institution it wanted to wound. As for the Sydney retreat, unsold seats became symbolic. Empty chairs can be louder than crowds. They suggest fatigue. limits. A market asking whether the magic still works. If audiences no longer pay premium prices for inspiration attached to a fading royal glow, then the business equation changes fast. Security costs remain, lifestyle costs remain, public relations costs remain, but demand can vanish overnight. By the end of the week, what began as a glamorous Australian campaign had turned into something far darker, a referendum on the Sussex future. Were Harry and Meghan global changemakers, or celebrities overplaying a once powerful connection? Were they victims who built freedom, or entrepreneurs selling grievance and glamour in alternating cycles? Everyone seemed to have an answer, and none of those answers matched. The palace, of course, said almost nothing. That may have been the most chilling detail of all, because when institutions believe time is on their side, they rarely rush. They watch, they wait, they let contradictions do the work. And if the reports were right, William had no interest in winning a noisy argument. He wanted to win the future. So as cameras moved on and the Australian headlines cooled, one question lingered like smoke in the air. Did Meghan expose the palace, or did she expose the weakness of the Sussex brand itself? Because if the only thing more expensive than those $3,000 tickets was the cost of staying relevant, then this story was nowhere near over. In fact, it may have only just begun.